it's Alex from the Siebel Hub. So today we are going to try something different with a code along. So we have this new article out on the Siebel Hub recently, a new case for Colorbox, it's titled. And so this is a recap or a revisit of a very, very old blog post that I did years ago. So let's see if we can find it. Yeah, that it is. And you can see from a screenshot that's Siebel IP13 or even older. And it uses the blog post uses the literature view. And what it tries to do is to show how to use the Colorbox plugin, very famous jQuery plugin named Colorbox. So there's a link there. And that is a very versatile light box, as it says on here on this page. And we can use it to display stuff as a pop-up. And why not use it to display the attachments or literature items as a pop-up? So there's a video out there, which very old. So let me try and see if it still plays. Yeah, let's watch it here. So here, that's the very old video, but you see the color box pops up on the first click of the literature item, and then you have next and previous buttons, and you see, in this case, very small images, but you see the point of the whole thing. You don't have to open or download each individual attachment just to look at it, right? So just shows whatever you click. There's a slideshow feature. So Colorbox does most of the heavy lifting. Okay, and the very old article has some, well, steps to do it. So first of all, we need the row ID. So here it says expose the ID field. So, and I think if we revisit this, we don't need to expose the ID field. We can get the raw record set, for example. There's the row ID. So we need the row ID of each record. We need the Colorbox plugin, of course, in place, and we need a physical renderer for the list applet to override certain things. And the certain thing is the URL that's part of the applet, the drill down on the literature name or attachment name, and that drill down is overwritten in the code. So that is very small, of course. Let's see a bigger, yeah. So that's as big as it gets. So here's just a code snippet. It's a screenshot, unfortunately, but you get the idea. So get the record set, or better the raw record set. So you get the row ID as well, and then construct a URL. And that URL invokes the drill down method on that field. And one part of the URL specifically is the row ID of the record. And so for each record in the record set, we look for the table definition, and we look for basically the hyperlink, and we modify the href, the hypertext reference, to point to that URL. So when you click it, it's actually a real URL, not a JavaScript anymore. And Colorbox is using all these modified anchors, hyperlinks, as targets. So it shows them in one box. So that's the general idea of it. So let's go back to the old article. So the old article has, well, lots of good ideas here. But when we try that, and that's actually what we will do in the next minutes, we'll try to implement that on Siebel 21, 22, modern Siebel versions, and we'll see a few problems. So the old code from 2013 no longer works really. So here is the new article, and that article describes how to use Colorbox in modern versions of Siebel to display, well, any attachment, literature or account attachments and so forth, as a pop-up lightbox. So there's also a demo video, let's watch it together. So here you see, oh, let's go back. It's too quick. So here you see clicking on a link in the attachment applet opens the, well, that's Colorbox showing PDFs here. And if you, well, go to the next record, well, there's random images from Colorbox, from the Colorbox creator. So the Colorbox shows PDFs with the PDF viewer of the browser, and there's non-supported files like PNG, and that's just available the usual way for download. And with that feature, you can also right-click the links and open them in new tabs, like so. So that's new browser tab with the PDF. Or you can right-click and save link as. Does it work? Yes. Okay, the browser downloads, you save that. So you can use it in different ways. So here's the downloaded file, just prove it. Okay, yeah, that's about it for the video that shows how it's supposed to be. And so let's see if we can get there. So we have some instructions here on the blog. So if you want to follow along, first we need Colorbox, it says, right? So got a training machine here. So this machine is, well, just mostly vanilla Siebel. So let's search for, well, Colorbox. Okay, want to see that in English, and that, well, the first link is the correct one. Check Moore's splendid Colorbox plugin, and he has a download link right there, which goes to GitHub. So let's use that, and it's downloaded in no time. And let's copy that, or let's extract that. There's a Colorbox master folder now. And there's some, well, that's the whole Colorbox example stuff, etc. So what we need is the Minified Javascript. So that's the first file we take care of. And we go to our Siebel installation. So that's the AI in that case, the AI server with its application container external folder, and Siebel Webroot, the folder name since 21.2. If you're an older version, the folder names are different. Be careful. Essentially, we want to copy that file to scripts Siebel custom. Well, let's be diligent, or at least pretend to be diligent. So that's what we do, is create a folder for Colorbox. Okay, and let's copy that file here. So if we go back to the downloaded folder, we also see examples. So there's example 5, for example, gives us an index file we can just watch, and gives us some, well, examples with photos, etc. And, well, that's also for the styling. That's one example. And I just decide I like it. So I go to the, what I need is the Colorbox CSS from here and that images folder. That images folder just has the, well, controls that are shown in the Colorbox. So let's copy both. And they go into the AI external Tomcat Siebel webroot files. There's already a custom folder. Let's just put them right there. So Colorbox CSS along with the images it refers to. So we need those. Okay, so that's all Colorbox work. So we need now to go to the manifest in Siebel and register it. Okay, so you can log in. And go to sitemap. And that's actually a good opportunity to talk about Siebel Open UI. So what you're seeing here is standard Open UI configuration. But if you're not familiar with that, well, there's something I want to tell you. So if you go to the Siebel Hub, then you will find there in the Knowledge tab Siebel CRM training, and we have two classes, OpenUI Basics. If you have not really an idea of OpenUI, what it is as a developer, that's a very good class to get started. And we have OpenUI Professional if you already know your way with OpenUI, but you need to know a little bit more. So maybe to understand what you're doing here, Basics is required and Professional would be really good as a level. So if you're planning to learn OpenUI, or you plan to educate your team on OpenUI, or just want to do a little bit more OpenUI in the future, consider these two classes. Take a look at the pages. The link is in the description. And take a look at these pages. Take a look at the course curriculum. So there are plenty of very good chapters with, guess who recorded them, and exercises as well. And with the training machine we offer from the Siebel Hub, you can make this a really cool learning experience. Okay, so having said that, let's do a little bit of OpenUI. So we go to manifest files and we register those Colorbox files. So first entry is Siebel/custom/colorbox, and let's do copy paste. So that's Siebel webroot script, Siebel custom colorbox. Yeah, let's copy paste that file name. Okay, and we need another one for the CSS. So that's in files custom. It's called colorbox.css. Okay, and we want these files to be loaded always, so we associate them with, in the manifest administration, we look for the platform entries. So anything starting with platform, and there's the read-only standard entry, and on this machine we have custom entries already. So for theme, well, it's the first one we have here, the first custom entry. There's already mobile theme level 1. So let's make that level 2. And I want level 1, or let's do it the other way around. Yeah. Let's keep that level 1, and we have another level 1 with the CSS file. That's the theme entry for application. So that's where most of your CSS files would go. So here we go, Colorbox CSS. And then we find the common entry. We have a custom entry already. There's some demo here. And we do the same. So for every application, That would be level 2 here. So that would be, oh, that's level 1. Let's keep everything level 1. And we find the Colorbox JavaScript file. Okay, so that should be good enough to load the Colorbox files. That's what it says here in those 7 steps. We just done that literally. And now we need a custom physical renderer for the attachment applet. So attachment applets are list applets. So we have to extend the list applet standard PR. And there's an example file that I put on GitHub. So let's check it out. And you could just copy paste that, but really don't copy paste stuff you find on the internet, right? You don't do that. So don't copy paste anything that you really don't understand. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this file step by step. And I'm not going to bore you with me typing and making typos and being slow and doing boomer things. But I'm just going to copy paste portions of that file into my new file. So the good thing is that Duncan, my friend at Oracle, he has created that PRPM code generator. So there's even a link in that file. And that generates the, template. So there's no code in it, of course, it's just a template. So my PR for desktop list applet is called cbox. So the file's going to be cbox PR. And that's a good starting point here. So it extends the JQ grid renderer. It's a perfect starting point. So let's copy that code. And on the training machine, I'll just open Notepad++, create a new file. And I'll just save this right away into the place where it's going to be. So it's going to be in Siebel Web Root Scripts Siebel Custom. And make sure the name is exactly as Duncan tells us. So in our case, it's cbox lowercase, p and r uppercase .js. Just make sure the file extension okay, so that's the JavaScript file. So this file does nothing. So what are we going to do exactly? We're going to override the hyperlink for each attachment or literature record. So we need to run for each record. And of course, if the user scrolls down, runs a query, we need to reapply these overrides. So we need to do it every time the data set changes. And that's actually what we do in the bind data method. So we are going to override the bind data method right after the apply of the superclass. So after the list applet has done its thing, we're going to add code here that runs every time the data set changes. And we are in a physical renderer. So that's our starting point here. So let's take a look at the example file. So of course this is code that has been developed over time, so lots of variables here. And the first few variables are to get our bearings. So there's a arrays first. So what is this? This is a list of extensions that we know the browser can handle. PDF, JPEG, or GIF. So that's going to be used below. Then we have an index of sorts, and we get the presentation model. We use the presentation model to get a few things. Get the raw record set, get the placeholder of the applet, get the full ID of the applet, get the control set, get the current business component name, and here we get the applet element, the jQuery element for the applet, because you want your physical renderer to will operate within the boundaries of the very applet. So this variable is very important. Then we get the page URL. So there's one way to do it. You can use standard JavaScript as well to get the first part of a URL, a Siebel URL, the origin with the host name and folders. And then we get the view name, we get the applet map, we get the applet name, and then we have a bunch of other variables. Okay, so let's copy that stuff into our environment. Okay, there we go. We'll take care of the formatting later, but it's not bad. And now, what are we going to do next? So let's scroll down a little bit, because here's in the example code, well, the heart of the code is really generating a URL that works. So this is a lot of SWE commands. Invoke method is drilled down, there's a field, not a name, but a control name, there's the BC field name, there's view names, applet names, there's a parent row ID, there's a marker, and there's a placeholder for the record row ID. So you might ask yourself, wow, how am I ever going to understand what's going on here? Well, what's going on here is we are putting together a URL that Siebel would put together when you click a drill down. So here's a bit of hacking. How do you know that? What's happening in Siebel? And well, let's go to a attachment applet. So we have an attachment test record here. So good to have. That's coincidence. Let's see, does it have any attachments? Yep, it has JPEG and a GIF. Okay, that's good enough for testing. So now let's open the browser developer tools. So we're using Google Chrome here. So there we go. That's the console. And the browser developer tools network tab is what you really want to go for. So, and let's clear everything. And now if you click on one of these attachment links, of course we get the regular standard Siebel file download. D-size installed, that's why the edit button is green. But what exactly has happened here? So we see there's some certain payload. And in that request, the payload that was sent, so it's a post request, and the payload that was sent includes the applet name, the active applet, BC field name. These are the control names here with the values of the current record. There's invoke method, there's drill down. So you see where I got this from. By inspecting the network tab of the browser developer tools. Of course, this is close to, well, hacking. So you might not feel very comfortable with that. Then, well, keep it educational. We'll learn something about OpenUI. You don't have to implement it like that. Okay, so this is where I got all these URL parameters. So this is where I put together. So I need the view name, for example. I need the BC field name. I need the control name. So if we scroll up again, you understand why are we doing these loops here. So the first one is to get the full field names for the drill down and extension. So we're clicking on an attachment record. It has a name and an extension field. So like extension says, for example, PDF or JPEG. And so we go through the first record. So in a record set, there are multiple records, but every record has the same field. So just pick the first record. And if that field name includes file name. So let's go back to that request here. So here, for example, it's ACCNT file name, account file name. So that means, well, that's because it's the account attachment applet. Other attachment applet have different business components with different field names, but they always include file name. So that's the trick. So if it includes file name, we have our field name, the real field name. And if it includes file extension or file ext, we have the extension field name. So we have the names of two fields. And we need that input name. Now the input name is the real thing that's in the DOM. Every control has this input name attribute. And so we parse the control set that we got previously. And now we look for the field that holds the file name that you click on. And we get the input name. Okay. And now there's something that I worked out the hard way when I worked on this example. If you have a standalone view like literature, you just have a bunch of attachments or a bunch of files. There's no parent, so it's basically primary BC. But sometimes you have, or most of the time, you have a parent-child relationship. So you have accounts on top and attachments, or service request attachment, case and attachment. So now we want to find out, is there a parent BC? And that's very primitive code you see here, so don't use it. It's educational. Yeah. So you have to do something different here. But with a standard parent-child view, if you really have only two applets with different BCs, that will likely work. So what we check here is we go through the applet map. And for each applet, we get the business component name. And we have the very PR applet's business component name already. And if it's different, then we have found an applet with different BC. So then, bingo, we have a parent. Not really, but most likely. And we get that parent applet and end the loop. And now if we check if we have a parent applet, we get its presentation model. And we get the row ID of the parent record, because we also need it in that URL. It took me a while to figure that out, to be honest. So parent applet model, we get the raw record set, because that has the row ID always. So the raw record set is really your friend here. And we get the current selection, because it could be a list applet. And that would be the index of the record that's active on the parent, and we get the row ID. So, yeah, 99% will work. Not too proud about this part. Okay, so for good measure, I pasted in a sample request here, so I know which fields we need. And here we are going to, well, create that whole URL. The second part. So page URL already has the first part, like Siebel server / call center / ENU. So we start with the parameters. So we have invoke method, drill down. The field is the control name, BC field. Then we add the view. With the view name, we have to replace all occurrences of space with a plus. Remember that URLs in Siebel, they always have plus instead of spaces. So that's how we do it here. And we have the applet name, and we have the view name and applet name again, 2 times. And if we have a parent row ID, we add this beauty to the URL. And then we add a marker. So this is not a Siebel web engine command. This is BCRM, Black Sheep CRM. Yay. We basically tell this URL is special. It has been generated by JavaScript. And we see later what this is for. And here's the row ID placeholders. At the end of this string, there's an equal sign. So we will have to add each individual row ID in a loop later. Okay. A lot of things that we have to think about. So let's copy that part of the code. And let's paste it in right here. Okay. So that's the stuff that happens generally. And now there's a loop for the record set. So for each record in the record set, we are going to look up the extension. So that's like PDF, JPEG, GIF. Remember that array on top? Let's go back on top here. And we have an array where we basically, that could be handled more clever, really. Could be an applet user property or something, or a system preference or whatever. So these are the attachment types that we want to handle with this special renderer. And we know the browser can handle them in an iframe, so it makes sense to do it. If the browser can't handle it, like an Excel spreadsheet, it can't open it, so you have to download it. Okay, so here we compare the extension. So if it's not part of the array, we're not doing anything. But if it's in the array, like a PDF, yeah, well, let's get the index of the record, +1. Let's get the record row ID. So this is the record set, index of the record, ID field. And then add the link at the row ID, the page URL. So now we have link URL. And now that it's jQuery time. So in our applet element, find the table definition with that index and that placeholder of the applet. So we wouldn't need applet element, but just for good measure. And the field name and the anchor within it. So how do you find that out? Okay, so here we go. If you inspect the DOM, like this anchor that you drill down on, you'll find it's inside a TD, a table definition, or a cell. I used to call it cell. And that ID is 1, it's the first record. Then there's an underscore. Then there's the applet placeholder, which for list applet looks like this, S_number_L for list. And then followed by the field name. So that's the identifier we use. And we look for the anchor tag within the TD. And that's exactly what we do. So that's our target. And now we change some attributes. We add another marker, a custom marker attribute. Most importantly, we change the href attribute to that URL. And we change the font weight for good measure. So we can identify the visual cue that the link is different. And if you click the link, you get that pop-up from, with the edit button, download button, and cancel button. We don't need that. So I experiment a little bit. So I tried to turn off the click event handler. Didn't work. So I then decided to, add another click event handler and set a timeout of ½ a second, because by then the dialog should be open in the background behind Colorbox. And I simply do something, very primitive. I find the cancel button and click it. Good enough. The user never sees it. So again, this is educational code. So you will be more clever about this than I am. Okay, so that's end of each record. So by now each hyperlink that's eligible has been modified. Okay, let's copy this. All right. There we go. So now we just need Colorbox. Well, here we go. So now we need a target. So inside our applet, we find all the anchors that we modified. So here's how we can put these markers to good use. And that target, we apply the Colorbox plugin. So it's a jQuery plugin, so it works much like jQuery.function options. So I've literally looked up these options. So we want an iframe, we want a very big pop-up, maybe we want slideshow feature, and that's the text displayed. So instead of image, we say attachment, and display, so it says like attachment 1 of 10 or something. And that rubber biscuit here is another marker of sorts. We simply find the pager of the applet, that's the bottom of the applet on the right hand side, and we append a text to it. And you see how it works out. So now that's the final code we have to copy. Okay. So that's our PR. And yeah, hopefully was understandable what we're doing here. So now we need, of course, to register that PR with an applet. So I go back to the manifest files and register the PR, Siebel/custom/cbox-PR.js. And in manifest administration, well, we need at least one applet. So, well, here just by coincidence, Alphabet, the account attachment applet is here. Why is it here? It has vanilla records, a vanilla physical renderer, because it has that special behavior for attachments, you know, that view files button, all that stuff. So there's a standard renderer already registered here, but that doesn't hold us back from registering our own renderer. They will be both will be loaded. So let's just, let's copy that record and create our own. So we have no expression in this simple example, level 1, and we associate the cbox PR. There we go. Okay, so the account attachment applet should now be special. Well, let's check it out. We log out and log in. You have to do that after manifest changes. Let's keep the console up so we can see error messages. And let's go to that attachment test view. Okay, something happened. These file names are bold, and here's the marker, the rubber biscuit. This applet supports Colorbox. I like to do these things and have a visual cue. Okay, what happens when I click this? And oops, something happened, but I would expect a nice, juicy, big image file right there in the middle of my screen. It's not there. It's not there. Why? Why? The browser's downloaded it. Yes, it's downloaded. It's cool that it's downloaded it, but I want to see it. I don't want to click it again. So what about the other file? Let's click that. Oops. Download it again. Okay, and that's what frustrated me when I revisited my blog post from 2013, and I was at this stage and say, it doesn't work anymore. Yeah, well, something changed. But then I said, there must be ways, right? So I went back to that network tab. And if I look closely, if I click one of them, I get the request. So this is the request that my click makes. Yeah, you see that BCRM, CBox marker, and all that. And if I look into the header section, especially the response headers, the request is returned from the server. That's the AI Tomcat. And the AI Tomcat puts this here, content disposition attachment, that's the file name. And it also says this is an image, JPEG. Now content disposition, let's look this up. There's a very good page on Mozilla MDN. Content disposition is a response header indicating if the response is expected to be displayed inline or downloaded and saved locally. So what does it say here? It says attachment. That means the browser will always download it right away without asking. Maybe in Chrome there's a setting where you can have it ask where do you want to save it, like Firefox does that or Edge does that. But we really want to be set, for this to work, we must set it to inline. Okay, so back to our original post where we discussed this. So we want the content disposition response header to be inline. Well, what can we do? Gave this a long thought, bit of research, and first I thought, well, you could just tell the web server, in case the URL includes BCRM, like it has our marker, make the content disposition inline. So you would have to rewrite or overwrite the response header in the Tomcat. So the AI Tomcat, that is, the AI Tomcat that comes with Siebel CRM, which is a box that you should not mess with. That's what Oracle says, don't mess with the box. So I tried, I try a lot of things. I Googled, I Googled rewrite HTTP response header in Tomcat. Something like that, I Googled, and you get a rewrite valve. And with a little bit of luck, you get some Tomcat plugins. Yeah, but spare the time. Don't waste your time with that, because after a while, I found out, well, even if you can get it to work, you're messing with the box. You're changing so many files. You're adding plugins that break other things in Siebel. It's not the way to go. I kept it in the article as one option, but don't go there, I would say. What I hear a lot from people at Oracle is that you should really do this kind of stuff in a proxy server. There's documentation about this, that Oracle really requires you to have a proxy server if you run Siebel, quote, on the intranet or internet. So in theory, everybody has a proxy server. I know that not everybody has one, but it's easy to set one up, like Nginx. We have a good article on the Siebel Hub. That's why you should really subscribe to the Siebel Hub and, well, read it regularly. So here's a whole installation of Nginx. And with Nginx, you can do this rewriting of the header. And that, I think, would be the most professional thing. But our code is experimental and should just showcase something, a proof of concept. So we just want to get going. I don't want to install Nginx on that training machine, even if I could. So we have a third option, that's a browser extension. So the browser extension can be used to override the header. So there are various browser extensions for Chrome, maybe for Firefox as well, didn't research that. I found one which is, funny enough, by the screenshot, I can tell, must be an Austrian guy, fellow Austrian, so servus. And this Chrome extension is called Modify Content Type. And so I will now install it in Chrome. So on my training machine, let's just go there and add it to Chrome. do it. And it's now here, right? So let's pin it. Okay. So it has options. And the options need us to add rules. Now, what's a rule? It has a name, so let's call it, let's call it PDF, for example. And you need a URL filter. And regular expressions used here. So a dot and an asterisk means any number of any character. I'm reading that. I'm not good at regular expressions. And I know the URL contains, drum roll, my marker. I could look for anything, but I don't want to look for SWE commands, really. There's a lot of URLs zipping around. So, but this URL with the marker, that's my special use case. So it's very safe. Okay, so if the URL has that marker in it, so use dot or period asterisk, so it contains BCRM box, and the original content type is like anything including PDF. Then we have the replacement type and make that application/PDF. And this position, yeah, we want inline. that's why this plugin is so cool. Okay, I've screenshot of the rules in here. So let's see if I got it right. Yeah, application/PDF inline. Let's do the same for image and convert that to text HTML. So the browser knows what to do with an image, and inline as well. So second rule. So that's images, same, BCRM box. Now if anything with image in it is in the type, we do text/HTML and inline. Okay, so we have as two rules for that Chrome extension. Now we must restart Chrome. So stop Chrome, open Chrome, log in again. Now, do we have more luck now? Let's see. Go to accounts, or go to any applet. It should work with any applet, any attachment applet. So now let's click that. And yep, that's an image right here in Colorbox. And there's another one. It's very tiny, but yes, two images in line. Yay! Okay, touchdown. PDFs. The use case really that prompted us to try this is not images really, but maybe, but PDFs, grown-up PDFs. Let's get some grown-up PDFs, shall we? So let's go to Siebel Bookshelf, and let's download a PDF, big one. Database upgrade guide. Okay, why not? And there's a PDF download. So here we go. Okay, so let's add this here. Okay, so we uploaded. That's regular stuff. So let's click it, and oh, that's nice. Yeah, so I have everything in line here. Everything I need. Collapse, expand, page control, zooming. Yeah, it's the browser Chrome, the Chrome PDF handler. That's what Chrome does with it. Very nice. Yeah. Let's see. If we right click, yeah, we can use the browser menu. Now it's a regular URL. It's not some JavaScript, so we can open it in a new tab. It has opened. Yeah, here it is. And you can also right click and save link as. And we can specify well, the folder. Don't have permission. Yeah, okay. let's put it somewhere else. Documents maybe. Yeah. Okay, so also different from the usual behavior. Now let's add one more file that is not within our support list, like a certificate. Oh, who puts a certificate there? A JSON file. Got a JSON file here. Okay, you see that is not bold, so the JavaScript does not modify the link. You can tell it has JavaScript, so it's a regular. Well, let's see what happens when I click it. Oh, the regular Siebel stuff kicks in, so you can download it, you can cancel it if you want to. Okay, you could. That's where your mileage might vary, so you can, of course, make it like an immediate download or something else. Okay, so well, that's it. That's the code along. Hope you liked it, and yeah, enjoy Siebel. Go Siebel. See you next time. Bye bye.